Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Friday, June 24th, 2022. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Now, unfortunately, we have hit our first slump of the season with those MLB best bets after a red-hot start to the year. And we are still up over 10 units in the MLB this season, but I want to give back to you guys for supporting me this year in the MLB. You've been wonderful to me this season, watching those rundown videos, sharing to your friends, liking the video, commenting, subscribing. It's been amazing, and I want to give back. I'm going to make my Friday MLB best bet absolutely free. All you have to do is when you go to purchase the play, use the code RON15 at checkout, and the $15 play will be absolutely free Friday only. So make sure you share it to your friends and get that best bet play. If you want to tail me or fade me, it's up to you. Whatever you got to do to catch that ticket, I'm all for it. Let's beat the books together. We've still been red hot on these free plays. Went 13-2 on Wednesday, one of our best days of the season. So let's keep beating Vegas and let's catch those plays. Here are the games for Friday, June 24th. First up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Miami Marlins. Taijuan Walker and Sandy Alcantara are your starters for this one. Now, both pitchers did pitch well in the first time these two teams met. Walker, June 18th, 6 2/3 innings, 1 earned run allowed. Alcantara's start was on June the 19th, so the day after. 8 innings, 2 earned runs, and that was a 6-2 Marlins win. There's no doubt that the Marlins are the hotter team right now, as the Mets did struggle in Houston, while the Marlins were able to sweep the Colorado Rockies in a 3-game set at home. And the big thing is the Marlins have played really, really well at home this season. They're 32-36 overall this year, but 18-14 at Lone Depot Park this year. I also think Taijuan Walker does have some regression to worry about in his game. Bottom 24th percentile in average exit velocity, bottom 15th percentile in hard hit percentage, not striking out a ton of batters, and the Marlins have a really good lineup against right-handed pitching. I trust Alcantara more at home, so I'm going to take the Miami Marlins here on the money line. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the New York Yankees. Justin Verlander and Luis Severino on the mound for this one. Should be an excellent pitching matchup that we have on our hands here. But unfortunately for Justin Verlander, he's had some inconsistent spots in his last 5 starts. We saw him really struggle against the Mariners back on May 27th. 10 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 home runs allowed in that one. He was a little bit better against the Oakland A's in his next start, but back on June 18th in his most recent start, he really struggled against the White Sox lineup that hasn't been very good against right-handed pitching. He only went 3 2/3 innings, giving up 9 hits, 7 total runs, 4 of those were earned. He only had 3 strikeouts in that one, and I don't know if I can trust him against this Yankees lineup, a lineup that's been so strong against right-handed pitching. In the last 30 days, they're number 4 in baseball, the Yankees are, in team OPS against righties, but number 1 in baseball in isolated power. While the Astros' numbers against righties haven't been nearly as strong, they're outside the top 10 in both categories, team OPS and isolated power. I know Luis Severino wasn't himself in his last outing, but that was his first start coming back from an injury. I think he's a lot sharper in this one. I'm going to take the Yankees here on the money line. In our next game, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Nick Pivetta and Cal Quantrill are your starters here. Now, this is an interesting game. These are 2 starters that I do think we have to worry about going forward in terms of regression. Now, Nick Pivetta started the season not pitching well at all. Recently, he has pitched a lot better. We're starting to see those strikeouts as well for him, which is definitely promising to see. When you look at his last 5 outings, you got to look at the teams he's faced. The Orioles, the A's twice, the Angels, a team that's really struggled offensively, and the Cardinals. So the Cardinals, you have to say, is the toughest lineup he's faced. Now he's going to go going up against the Guardians lineup that may not look it on paper, but they are very, very solid against right-handed pitching. They're winning a ton of ball games as of late. They competed really well in that Minnesota Twins series. They're now tied for first place in the division. And Cal Quantrill, I may not be the biggest fan of his because he doesn't really pitch the way I like. 44 strikeouts in 71 2/3 innings. Doesn't miss a lot of bats. But he's been able to learn a solid foundation of how to get those ground ball outs, how to keep the ball in the yard for the most part, and how to be a successful starting pitcher. And I think he's good enough here. The Guardians' bullpen has been really strong. The lineup has gotten situational offense down pat. I'm going to take a shot here with the Guardians as the home dog. Give me Cleveland on the money line. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to see Mitch Keller and Jeffrey Springs on the mound for this one. Now, the Rays are big time favorites in this game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them win this game But in terms of where the value lies, I just won't lay that minus 200 price. And I don't think there's a ton of value laying the 1.5 runs with the home team here, with an offense for Tampa that has really not done much as of late. Now, it's starting to get better. In that Yankee series, we saw some home runs hit from Isaac Paredes, 4 home runs in 2 games. And the offense started to get going, but still, overall, in the big picture in the last 30 days, the Rays have been one of the weakest offenses in baseball, especially against right-handed pitching, which they're going to be facing a righty in Keller. The Rays are 28th in the last 30 days in team OPS against right-handed pitching. The power numbers are a little bit better, but not good enough for me to want to lay 1.5 runs here. I do think Mitch Keller is starting to improve his game at the major league level. Still has some room to grow, but last time out, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts against the Giants, and that was good enough for a Pirates win. The Pirates have won 3 of the last 3 of the last 5 games that Keller has started in. I'm going to take a shot with the run line here with Pittsburgh, plus 1.5 runs. I think it's going to be a 1-run game either way. Next up, it's our Ron's Rundown Series of the Week. The Los Angeles Dodgers travel to Atlanta to take on the defending World Series champion Braves. Julio Urias and Ian Anderson are your starters here. We're seeing both teams play red-hot baseball. The Braves scoring plenty of runs. The Dodgers doing the same. And I like the over in this game. I think it sets up well for a high-scoring game. Julio Urias is a left-handed starter, and we see the Atlanta Braves are crushing lefties as of late. In the last 30 days, the Braves are number 2 in baseball in isolated power against lefties, number 3 in baseball in team OPS against lefties. I like them to get to Urias the same way they did get to Alex Wood on Thursday afternoon. On the other side, Ian Anderson, sure, he pitched well in his last outing, but that was against the Cubs. We've seen him give up 4 earned runs to the Marlins, 4 earned runs to the Nationals, 5 earned runs to the Rockies. Those are just a couple starts from his last 5 outings, and although the Braves have won those games that he's pitched in, it's been very high-scoring games, 6-4, 13-6, 9-5, and I think the Dodgers get to Anderson in this one. They're one of the best lineups in baseball against right-handed pitching this season. They scored a ton of runs in that Cincinnati Reds series, and I like them to get some runs here early and often against the Braves. These 2 bullpens are very solid, but I think we see a lot of runs in the early parts of this game. Give me the over in the Dodgers-Braves. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Washington Nationals. Paolo Espino and Dane Dunning are your starters for this contest. Now, the Rangers are pretty steep favorites in this game, and I think it's for good reason. Don't really trust Paolo Espino in this one. He's probably not going to go too deep in this ball game, and I don't want to see the Washington Nationals bullpen for 4, 5, 6 innings either. Texas Rangers offense has been really solid as of late. They swept the Phillies in that 2-game set at home. They actually swept them in the season series as well. And they're playing good baseball. Dane Dunning is probably, him and Martin Perez are the top 2 starters, in my opinion, in that rotation. Now, Dane Dunning did struggle a little bit in his last outing, but previous to that one, he pitched 6 innings of shutout ball against the Astros. I like him to bounce back here against a pretty weak Washington Nationals lineup. I think the Rangers bats can back him up against Espino and the Nationals bullpen as well. I like the Texas Rangers here on the money line. I'll sprinkle a little bit on the run line as well. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Chicago White Sox. We're going to see Kyle Bradish and Michael Kopech on the mound for this one. To me, this is just too much of a pitching mismatch for me to even think about taking the underdog here. Now, Kyle Bradish coming off a start against the Rays, a lineup that really hasn't done too much as of late, where he went 4 1/3 innings, 11 hits, 6 earned runs, a home run in that one. So now in his last 8 2/3 innings, he's given up 20 base hits. He's given up 11 earned runs and that home run against the Rays and Blue Jays. I don't think it gets any easier here against a White Sox lineup that has been getting a lot better against right-handed pitching. They're getting better at home as well. And Michael Kopech has been really solid on the mound this year. A 2.38 ERA, 55 Ks in 56 2/3 innings. He didn't have the most beneficial matchup against the Astros last time out, but I do like him to bounce back here against the Orioles lineup that just hasn't been the same on the road as they've been at home. The Orioles bullpen has also suffered quite a bit on the road this season as well. I'm going to take the Chicago White Sox here and lay the run line -1.5. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Minnesota Twins. German Marquez and Dylan Bundy on the mound for this one. Now, I know the Rockies haven't been the best road team this season, but I do think the value is on them in this particular spot. I just wouldn't want to lay this kind of price with Dylan Bundy and the Minnesota Twins bullpen right now. Although Dylan Bundy was a lot sharper in his last outing than he was in his previous ones, he still gave up 4 earned to the Yankees, 5 earned to the Blue Jays, 4 earned to the Tigers, 5 total home runs in that stretch. He was pitching like one of the weakest starting pitchers in baseball, and the Minnesota Twins bullpen, they did not have a very good week, and they had a terrible series against the Guardians. Other than that game on Thursday, against the Guardians on Wednesday. That was our best bet. They blew a 10-7, a ninth inning lead, and it just goes to show you this is a team that wants to compete in that AL Central and the American League in general. But their bullpen has to be one of the worst in the league right now. It's ranked 27th in the league in projected WAR. It's a very low payroll bullpen, and it's not getting by. I think they're going to have to add a few big pieces at the trade deadline to really compete this season. But because of that, I just cannot lay that kind of price with Minnesota. Marquez, in his last 3 outings, the Rockies have won 2 of those, or they've won all 3 of those games, but 2 of those games were on the road against the Padres and Giants. I think he's improving his game good enough for me to take a shot with the Rockies here. Give me Colorado getting the plus money, a ton of plus money on the road. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Kansas City Royals. Cole Irvin and Zach Greinke are your starters in this one. Now, I think I'm about to be struck by lightning, but I think I like an under in a Zach Greinke game. You guys know my opinion on Zach Greinke. I am not the most confident in his game this season. I will say he has been a legend of the game in the last few decades as a starting pitcher, one of the better starting pitchers in baseball, really, in the last couple decades. But this season, not necessarily my type of pitcher, but I do think that this matchup benefits his game. It is going to be his first start back from injury, which is a little concerning, but he looked good at rehab in the minor leagues, and against the Oakland A's, a team that just hasn't done anything against right-handed pitching this season or in the last 30 days, I think Greinke has a solid outing. Now, we know Greinke's going to rely on the ground ball. He's going to rely on not giving up a ton of hard contact. And the Oakland A's are 29th in baseball in team OPS and 26th in baseball in isolated power against righties in the last 30 days. So I do think Greinke pitches well. On the other side, Cole Irvin just faced this Royals lineup not too long ago, back on June 18th. He went 6 1/3, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. He's been a lot sharper as of late also. These are 2 starters that I don't look to back very often, but believe it or not, I'm going to take the under. Neither of these lineups have been very impressive this season. That's why you see both of these teams with very bad records overall this year. And I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I do lean towards the Royals to win it outright, but give me the under in the A's-Royals game. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to see Alek Manoah and Adrian Hauser on the mound for this contest. Now, similar to that White Sox-Orioles game, to me, this is another pitching mismatch, and I just cannot ignore it. I think Manoah is the far better starter than Adrian Hauser right now. I think not only does Hauser have the worst ERA of 4.24 compared to Manoah's 2.0, but Hauser is just not a type of pitcher I'm looking to back. 54 Ks in 68 innings. He's walking a lot of batters as of late. He gave up 4 walks in his last outing to the Cincinnati Reds, and he's given up 5 home runs in his last 5 outings combined. Toronto Blue Jays have been one of the stronger lineups, if not the strongest lineup, against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days, as they're number 3 in baseball in isolated power, number 2 in baseball in team OPS against righties in that stretch. And sure, Alek Manoah wasn't his strongest against the New York Yankees last time out, but he's not facing the Yankees here. He's facing a Milwaukee Brewers lineup that's just been so as of late against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days. Milwaukee is outside the top 20 in team OPS. A little bit better numbers in terms of isolated power, but not good enough for me to take him here. I like the Toronto Blue Jays in this spot on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Kyle Hendricks and Andre Pallante are your starters for this one. Now, I don't really trust either of these starting pitchers going forward this season, but I do think the Cardinals are the lesser of 2 evils. Certainly not my favorite game on the board, but I'm going to lean towards St. Louis on the money line. You look at Kyle Hendricks. He has struggled as of late. He struggled on the road, and the Cardinals have a very tough lineup to face, especially against righties in the last 30 days. We didn't mention that in the beginning of the season, as the Cardinals did start the season off not too well against right-handed pitching, but in the last 30 days, St. Louis is number 6 in baseball in team OPS against righties, and against righties in terms of isolated power. They're in the top 15 as well. I think the Cardinals lineup does enough at home here to get the win, but again, not my favorite game. I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals on the money line. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Now, I do think Michael Lorenzen bounces back from his start last time out, and I do think the Angels' bats are going to back him up as well. I don't really trust Chris Flexen in this spot. He's a guy that I do think is going to regress quite a bit as we continue this season. 4.23 ERA, but I think it's going to be in the 5s at the end of the year, and a 1.42 whip is outside the top 50 in starting pitchers this season. Michael Lorenzen, in recent years, I bet he didn't like pitching at home, as it was at Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark, a very hitter-friendly park. But this year, he has loved his home sweet home. 2.52 ERA at home this season, and a .98 whip, so much better numbers at home for Lorenzen than on the road. I think he pitches well enough here for the Angels bats to take care of the rest. I'm going to take the Angels in this spot on the money line. In our next game, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to see Ronnie Garcia and Merrill Kelly on the mound for this contest. Now, I do think Ronnie Garcia has a bright future in the major leagues. He's only 24 years old. He has 41 strikeouts in 38 innings and a solid 1.05 whip, so he doesn't give up a ton of base hits. But the biggest problem in his game, and the reason why I'm frightened for him in this particular start, is because he gives up a ton of home runs in hard contact. 8 home runs already in 38 innings this season. He's in the bottom first percentile in the following: average exit velocity, hard hit percentage, expected ERA, expected slugging, and barrel percentage as well. Bottom fourth percentile in expected batting average. He is getting hit, and he's getting hit pretty hard, and usually it goes over the wall for a home run. And Arizona is one of the teams that, although they're not the strongest offensive team on paper in terms of runs per game, not necessarily, but in terms of isolated power, true power numbers, the Diamondbacks against right-handed pitching have been one of the best teams in baseball. They are very, very dependent on the home run ball. They hit a lot of home runs, and I think they're going to hit plenty in this spot against Garcia. And Merrill Kelly, although he's had his struggles here and there, I still think he's one of the top 2 options in that Diamondbacks rotation, him and Zach Gallen. Kelly, a 3.46 ERA. He's facing a Tigers lineup that's been worse than Arizona this season. In fact, they've been probably the worst lineup in baseball, especially against right-handed pitching, where in the last 30 days they are in dead last 30th in team OPS and isolated power against those lefties, against those righties, excuse me. Give me the Arizona Diamondbacks here. They're big favorites for a reason. I'll take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the San Diego Padres. Aaron Nola and Mackenzie Gore are your starters for this one. I think Aaron Nola is the far better option on the mound here. And I also trust the Philadelphia Phillies lineup a lot more than I do San Diego's, especially with Manny Machado out of the lineup. They're still without Fernando Tatis Jr. And although they've been able to win games without those guys for now, I think against Aaron Nola, one of the stronger pitchers in the National League, this is a really tough spot for the home team. On the other side, Mackenzie Gore, although he's pitched well at spots, and I think, again, he has a very bright future in the league, 74th percentile in strikeout percentage. The biggest issue in his game, the hard hits, 20th percentile in average exit velocity and hard hit percentage, bottom 37th percentile in barrel percentage, so he's very susceptible to that home run ball. With the Phillies getting Bryce Harper back in the lineup, it only adds to a pretty strong offense to begin with, especially against those left-handed pitchers. I like the Phillies here. I think they're favorites for a reason. Give me Philadelphia on the money line. In our final game of the night, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the San Francisco Giants. Graham Ashcraft and Alex Cobb are your starters. Now, I'm not giving up on Alex Cobb this season. He's got a 5.62 ERA, but I think it'll be below 4 at the end of this season as long as he stays healthy. That's been also one of the issues for Cobb, is he's been injured quite a bit this year. But after his first start back from injury, wasn't the sharpest. He only went 4 innings, though, giving up 2 earned runs. I think he pitches well here against Cincinnati, a lineup that I'd much rather see against a lefty than a right-handed starter. In terms of team OPS against righties, in the last 30 days, the Reds are ranked 21st in baseball, even worse, 27th in isolated power against those right-handed starters. Alex Cobb's able to miss bats. He has 49 strikeouts in 41 2/3 innings. I think he pitches well here, but on the other side, I also do think Graham Ashcraft bounces back after a couple of bad starts against the Brewers and Cardinals. San Francisco Giants lineup has been inconsistent. They have been pretty good against right-handed pitching as of late, but at home at a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, I don't think the Giants are going to slug their way to a win here. I think it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I do like the Giants to win this game in the end, and I would think about laying the run line as well. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I like the under in the Reds-Giants game to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday, June 24th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Put those baseball picks in the comments section below. And most importantly, don't forget you can get my Ron's Rundown MLB Best Bet for free by using the code RON15 at checkout. Hopefully we can cash that ticket together. And as always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.